picture it like Little House on the Prairie,
Mm-hmm.
and their switchboards. That was
Sure.
up there in that room.
So the Lockwood Farm was Gossip Central.
Right.
Well, there you go. Oh, that's funny. Grandpa got the homestead from great grandpa, and I never got to meet great grandpa. But how old were you when your family moved from Prattville in town to the homestead on Squawfield?
I've never looked it up completely. I thought I was 4 years old, but Jim kind of thinks I must have been older. But I know that I didn't start school until we moved to the farm.
So
So,
that was before you started kindergarten.
right. So I always said I was 4 years old, but maybe it was the summer I turned 5. I don't know. I'd have to go back and look
Sure.
to make sure. But
So the farm had been in your family for many years, and I remember when I was a kid, it was 160 years, so that's got to be closer to 200 years now.
it must be, yeah, it must be.
So you were 4 or 5 when you moved on the farm, and you had lived not in a city, you lived in a very, very small town.
Rural,
Very rural town.
Right.
So it wasn't dramatic moving onto the farm, I don't imagine, right?
No, I know that it was not modernized at all, so when we moved out there, we did not have indoor plumbing.
Mm-hmm.
That was added after my mom and dad took over the farm.
Okay.
So when we moved to the farm, but the first, and I don't know how many months, but the first 6 months or so, we did not have indoor plumbing, but it got added right away.
Now, did you have electricity when you moved to the farm?
Yes, I believe so.
And did you have phone? You had telephone?
That was the farm was the first phone company, first phone office in that, and I don't know if it was a township, if they were divided into townships, but I'm thinking it was Jefferson Township, and that the phone was when you went upstairs, that first room was the phone office. So one of the sisters ran the phone out of the old farm.
I'm learning something. Okay, so that first room, when we used to go up that little tiny narrow staircase to the, well, there were 4 or 5 rooms upstairs, but the first room.
Yeah, the first room, and my mom always used it as like a storeroom.
Okay.
It was years later that we made it into a bedroom for a while. But basically it was a storeroom.
So could I have imagined almost a switchboard up there?
See, now I would not have known it because it was before my time of moving there. But yes, it must have had the switchboard. Picture it like Little House on the Prairie,
Mm-hmm.
and their switchboards. That was
Sure.
up there in that room.
So the Lockwood Farm was Gossip Central.
Right.
Well, there you go. Now, just two or 3 days ago, you shared that when you moved to the farm, I always knew the farm as corn, soybean, wheat, and maybe oats or something like that.
Oats. Yeah,
And-
we would have had oats.
And I never knew any animals on the farm. But when you moved to the farm, it was in its truest sense a farmstead, a homestead with
Right.
animals. So
Right.
What animals did you have?
We had all of them. We had cows for milking. We sold milk, plus we drank the milk. We had hogs, little baby pigs, that probably were butchered at a time, maybe sold. So we had pigs. We had chickens. And at that time, I don't know exactly where the chicken coop was, but we would have had enough chickens for eggs and stuff. Then we had, there was a time when we had some geese, but my mom said never again, just a while. My brother had a pet horse, pony, but he didn't like to be ridden, and every time if the barn door was left open, he went through it, whether you were on his back or not. So we just had, I want to say it was like one summer or 1 year that my brother had the horse. But yeah, so we had all of the animals when we moved to the farm.
But you had enough milking cows to actually sell milk.
Yeah, we always sold milk. The milkman would come and pick up the cans out of the milk house.
Right. So I should have put two and two together because we always called that one building the milk house.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
that had I think Grandpa told me it had like a spring underneath it that kept that slab of, I guess it was concrete.
Right, and he had it built up so that he could put the cans, and I don't know if it held like maybe 4 cans of milk, maybe 6 cans of milk in there.
And then that
was-
slab
kept 'em
stayed
cold.
cool. It wasn't a root cellar, it was above the ground, but it was situated on a spring, so it was a spring house.
Yeah.
I guess would be what we call that.
But I think probably my dad built that. It probably wasn't an original building. I think he built that.
And I remember grain stores, and I remember that building we called the hog house.
That brick building. And I'm thinking that the chickens were up above that, on the top floor of that building originally, was where the chickens were. The hogs were down below.
In Michigan.
Oh, we had sheep too. I should say we also had sheep on the farm.
Yeah. So you did say that, but where
Okay.
where were the sheep kept? Do you remember?
No, but probably in part of the barn.
You don't think they were
I
out
think
on
they were in the
grass or in
barn.
pasture?
Well, they would have had to bring them in.
Bring them in
So-
during the winter months.
Right.
So you had to have
To
indoor
think back to that.
housing for the animals and outdoor runs for the animals as well.
Right. Because the cows I know went behind where that ditch is. The cows were that was always fenced in, and cows were behind there. I'm assuming one portion of that big barn were for the sheep that they were kept in it.
Do you remember, so were the cows brought into one of the other barns each day to milk? Or morning and night? Or
Morning and night, and they were brought in where the milk house was. That first part of the barn
the
was
big barn?
had the stalls in it for the cows to come in.
Okay.
And then the center of it was open because the haymow was up above, and you probably remember playing up in the haymow
Right.
as kids. Yeah.
Now I do
So the hay
remember
was
this, and I don't know if this will help you with the chicken remembrance, but in the opposite of the haymow, and you would go up between the two tractors, there was that staircase where the two tractor barns were, the
Right.
two tractor
Right. There
carports.
was an upstairs.
So you went up that upstairs, so then that took you to the big barns upstairs, and up there it was like molded, and almost places that were, to me, were little gullies that might have been nesting areas.
I don't remember when it was my turn to go collect eggs. I don't remember going upstairs. We went underneath that part. So if you can picture cows, sheep, chickens. But I'm not sure about the sheep. Chickens were in that far side
Okay.
originally.
And that was close to where Grandma had always kept the garden when we would visit.
Right. The garden was out beyond that, yeah. The garden did move around a few times and be on different sides of the house. But I think the last few years, that's where the garden was over there. They always
So-
had a big garden.
Big garden. So what kind of vegetables did Grandma have in the garden? I knew it was always felt like it was more than an acre.
Yeah,
The garden
it's
itself.
a big
right?
garden. Of course, you always had the potatoes and the corn, green beans, carrots, probably onions. I don't remember a lot of onion dishes, but onions. Beets, I know she grew beets. So I think she probably had all the vegetables that she could grow in the garden. Peas, because I remember shelling peas. So peas and green
Tomatoes.
beans and tomatoes. We would have had tomatoes. And then we also had a strawberry patch. And I'm not sure if it was always attached to the garden or if it had been in different, again, if it had been someplace else. Latter years, I know it was over there by the,
Because strawberries
garden.
would come back each year, right?
right, yeah.
And then I know in Michigan you can have nut trees, right? So did you have walnuts and other types of nuts?
We did not have nuts, but the trees out front were maple. And I know there was a few years where Dad would tap them and we'd have our own maple syrup from there. But it never was a lot. He usually went and worked with another man because he enjoyed doing that and worked at in his maple trees. But I can remember the buckets hanging on the trees, you know, with the sap running in, you know. So
And barns, you know.
yeah. Probably,
As a
yeah.
kid, you know, we'd play in the barn, and there was all these tools that were used either from your grandpa or great grandpa or my grandpa, and so nothing was ever really thrown away, so to speak. It was just in a corner, and we would play with those things. And, I imagine a lot of those things today might have value that they didn't have when
Right.
they were disposed of eventually. Hey, thanks for joining us today. You know, we have a lot to be thankful for. And even as I reflected and thought back and explored my roots with my mom, I discovered things I never knew. And you know, tomorrow you're going to have an opportunity to sit down with family and friends, possibly, and have these type of conversations. And don't take those times for granted. Don't miss those opportunities. Maybe there's something in your past that is fun. You know, explore those things. Bonnie and I didn't grow up on the farm, but we got here just as quick as we could. So thank you for being a part of our family as well. Thank you for subscribing or watching or however you want to interact with Wild Coffee Homestead. Thank you. We are blessed because you're in our life. Sometimes these holiday occasions are sad as we reflect on those who are no longer with us. And that's okay too. Think about the good times. Cherish those memories and make some new ones as well. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving.